Have you ever wondered about the true origins of humanity? Why did we suddenly appear, seemingly out of nowhere, with advanced intelligence compared to other primates? Mainstream science tells one story, but there are other, more ancient tales that paint a very different picture. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most compelling and controversial theories of all time, the story of the Anunnaki and their role in genetically engineering the human race. Our journey begins in ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, with the Sumerians. This remarkable culture, which emerged around 4500 BC, gave us writing, the wheel, astronomy, and complex laws. But where did their incredible knowledge come from? The Sumerians themselves claimed it was given to them by mighty gods who came from the sky. They called them the Anunnaki, which translates to those who from heaven to earth came. These ancient stories, etched into thousands of clay tablets, describe a planet in our solar system far beyond Neptune, called Nibiru. According to these texts, Nibiru has a long, elliptical orbit, bringing it into our inner solar system only once every 3,600 years. The inhabitants of Nibiru, the Anunnaki, were a highly advanced, long-lived race facing a dire crisis. Their home planet's atmosphere was deteriorating, and they needed one specific element to save it: gold. This is where Earth enters the story. The tablets claim that around 450,000 years ago, the Anunnaki traveled to Earth because it was rich in gold. Led by a commander named Enki, a brilliant scientist and geneticist, they established their first Earth base in a region they called Eridu, in what is now southern Iraq. Their mission was to mine vast quantities of gold and ship it back to Nibiru to repair their atmosphere. For thousands of years, the Anunnaki themselves toiled in the mines. But the labor was grueling, and eventually, the rank-and-file Anunnaki workers rebelled. They were tired of the hard work and demanded a solution. This crisis led to a groundbreaking, and perhaps world-altering, decision. The Anunnaki leadership, including Enki and his half-brother Enlil, decided to create a primitive worker to take over the mining operations. And what was the raw material for this new worker? The text suggests they looked at the most evolved primate on the planet at the time, an early hominid, perhaps Homo erectus. The plan, masterminded by Enki, was to take their own advanced Anunnaki DNA and combine it with the DNA of this native Earth creature. They weren't just creating a hybrid, they were performing a sophisticated act of genetic engineering to upgrade an existing species. The Sumerian tablets describe this process in surprising detail. They speak of Enki and a chief medical officer named Ninti, or Lady of the Rib, mixing the essence of a young Anunnaki male with the egg of a female hominid. This fertilized egg was then implanted into the womb of an Anunnaki female, who served as a surrogate mother. After many trials and errors, the first successful human was born. They called him Adamu, a name strikingly similar to the biblical Adam. This new being was a hybrid, a perfect blend of heaven and earth. These first humans, or Lulus as the Anunnaki called them, were sterile and could not reproduce on their own. They were created for one purpose: to be workers, to serve the Anunnaki gods by mining gold. For a time, this system worked. But as the demand for labor grew, the process of creating humans one by one through surrogacy became too slow and inefficient. So, Enki made another fateful decision, this time against the wishes of his brother Enlil. He decided to modify the new human race so they could procreate on their own. This is where the story echoes the biblical tale of Adam and even the Garden of Eden. The garden might have been the Anunnaki biolab, and the forbidden fruit could be a metaphor for gaining the knowledge, or the biological ability, to reproduce. By giving humans this power, Enki ensured their survival and created a self-sustaining workforce. This act created a major conflict between the two Anunnaki leaders. Enlil was furious. He saw humans as nothing more than tools and was concerned they would multiply uncontrollably, spread across the planet, and become a problem. He never wanted them to be anything more than servants. Enki, on the other hand, seems to have developed a fondness for his creation. He saw their potential and acted as their protector and teacher. As humanity grew in number, the Anunnaki took human partners and had children, creating a lineage of demigods who often became the kings and rulers of the first human cities. These rulers were the intermediaries between the Anunnaki gods and the general population. This could explain why ancient kings were so often described as having divine right to rule. Perhaps they literally had divinity in their bloodline. The theory then goes on to reinterpret other major events from ancient mythology. The Great Flood, for example, is found in stories all over the world. According to the Sumerian version, the flood wasn't a divine punishment for human wickedness. Instead, Enlil saw an approaching natural catastrophe, the melting of Antarctic glaciers, as Nibiru passed by, as the perfect opportunity to wipe out humanity, which he saw as noisy and unruly. But Enki once again defied him. He secretly went to a loyal human follower, a man named Utnapishtim the Sumerian Noah, and instructed him to build a large boat, a submersible, and to preserve the seed of all living things. After the flood waters receded, Enlil was enraged to find that humans had survived. But faced with their resilience, he reluctantly agreed to allow humanity to flourish once more. So, what are we to make of all this? Is it just myth and legend, the fanciful stories of an ancient people? Or could it be a distorted historical record of real events? Proponents of this theory, like the late author Zecharia Sitchin, who first popularized these translations, argue that the level of detail in the Sumerian texts is too specific to be mere fantasy. The tablets contain advanced knowledge of astronomy, genetics, and technology that the Sumerians simply shouldn't have possessed. They describe the planets in our solar system with remarkable accuracy, including the colors of Uranus and Neptune, which we only confirmed with modern space probes. They spoke of genetic manipulation thousands of years before we discovered DNA. How is this possible? The simplest explanation, according to the theory, is that they were told all of this by the beings who were actually the Anunnaki. Critics, of course, dismiss these ideas. Mainstream scholars argue that Sitchin's translations are flawed, and that the Anunnaki were simply deities in the Mesopotamian religious pantheon, not extraterrestrial visitors. They argue that interpreting these religious texts as literal history is a fundamental mistake. Yet, the questions remain. The missing link in human evolution is still a mystery. The sudden explosion of human civilization with the Sumerians is still unexplained, and the countless similarities in myths and legends from cultures all around the world, all speaking of gods who came from the sky, taught humanity, and promised to return, continue to puzzle us. Whether you believe the Anunnaki were real aliens or powerful gods of myth, their story offers a fascinating alternative lens through which to view our own origins. It suggests that humanity is not an accident of evolution, but the result of a deliberate, cosmic plan. It paints a picture of our creators as beings who were not perfect, but were driven by their own needs, conflicts, and even compassion. We were made in their image, inheriting not just their intelligence, but also their capacity for both great creativity and great destruction. What do you think? Is the Anunnaki theory a plausible explanation for the mysteries of our past, or is it just a modern myth built on ancient stories? The truth may be lost to time, but exploring these possibilities forces us to ask the biggest questions of all. Who are we, and where did we really come from? Thanks for joining us on this journey into the distant past. If you enjoyed this exploration, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the world's greatest mysteries. See you next time.